we may be shocked or surprised at the way Thomas responded to the other apostles when they told them after the first evening that Jesus appeared to them. And I wonder if Thomas, instead of walking in on the room where they're probably sitting there still bewildered, trying to understand, and just told them the news, if you walked into that room and the room was in chaos and they were all, some of them may be injured, some of them dead, and they said, the Lord came back to life and He really let us have it. Would you think Thomas had believed them more? I think so. I mean, it makes sense after what they did to Christ that He's really coming back with vengeance. So I don't think Thomas's problem was just that he didn't believe Jesus rose from the dead. That's part of it. But the other part of it is when the disciples told him what Jesus said. Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I send you. Those sins you forgive will be forgiven. Those you retain are retained. That's not the behavior that you expect from someone who has been betrayed by those closest to him. And I think maybe that was the hardest part for Thomas to believe. So let us look at those two questions. The resurrection of Christ, because last Sunday all we heard that there is an empty tomb. For us Catholics, as many Christians, the resurrection is a historical event. It really happened. Jesus died on the cross and then rose on Easter Sunday. And that's why Jesus shows them the nails on his hands and his feet to, make the connection. It's the same one who died on Good Friday. I'm the one who was crucified, who suffered, died. The resurrection is a historical event. Jesus did die and rise from the dead. And sometimes I think we're not aware of really the importance of what that means. Because if Jesus did not rise from the dead, then okay, he was a great man, great, rabbi, good teacher, great healer, but then he's like anyone else, he ended up dying. And really the way he showed us, it doesn't make much sense if he's going to end up in death, torture, pain, and suffering. That empty tomb was empty because Jesus rose from the dead. Well, obviously we know the stories. What about somebody stole his body? Well, yeah, somebody could have stolen his body, but there's no record that the Sanhedrin, the religious leaders, went looking for that body. Because they knew it was not stolen, although that's the story they told. If someone stole his body, if you remember in the story last Sunday, the linens that they wrapped Jesus' body with were taken out and found in the tomb. Now, why would someone who wants to steal the body take the time to take off the linens and then really carry the dead body? It wouldn't make sense. Why wasn't the body discovered? Or at least pretended, oh, well, we found the body, that's the same Jesus who died on the cross. Another thing we look at, let's say the disciples fabricated this whole story. Let's say somebody else even did the same or stole the body they didn't know about. Why would they live the life that Jesus proclaimed? Why would they go out and risk their own lives proclaiming something they know is a lie? That wouldn't make sense either. The story would have ended there. Whether they made it up, so to speak, Jesus rose from the dead, it's true what he said, but then they would have gone back to their regular life and lived their normal lives. They wouldn't have put their lives on the line for a lie that they knew it wasn't true. All of this is evidence that Jesus truly rose from the dead and that he appeared to his disciples. Our faith without the resurrection does not make sense. It only makes sense because of the resurrection. Because of the second part that I think that Thomas had doubts about that didn't make sense. Jesus taught a way of life. He talked about mercy, compassion, forgiveness. He gave his life for his message. Now when he rose from the dead, he did not change. He came back with the same message. Peace be with you. Not, how could you do this to me? I told you for 3 years. I told you I'm going to go to Jerusalem and die, and you abandoned. He didn't ask him any questions. He just said, peace be with you. And not just he said that peace be with you. Why Thomas had a good reason to doubt, because he was passing on that mission to them. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. Sent them to do what? To proclaim the same message, to live the same life of forgiveness, of mercy, of reconciliation, of peace. He's asking them to give their lives to the same mission that he gave his life for. And that's what he's asking us, to do the same. Because he's sending us to go to the world and proclaim there is a new way of life. There is new vision, a new kingdom. And this way will always lead to victory and to the resurrection, to eternal life. Or else it doesn't make sense. If it all ends on the cross, why would anybody follow that path that Jesus showed us? Forgive sins, reconciliation, bring people together, and that's what the disciples did. They brought Jews and Gentiles, male and female, old and young. They opened the doors for all to believe in the message of Christ. Thomas realized what the meaning of the resurrection means for him. And he lived that life and ended up living his life for that same message. It's easy for us to say, yeah, I believe Jesus rose from the dead. But it can't just end there. If we believe he rose from the dead, then it only makes sense for us to follow his way, to live that life, so that one day we can share in his resurrection. That's why the resurrection is central to our faith. Without it, our faith doesn't make sense, and without living the resurrection, then we're not guaranteed eternal life. Thomas demanded proof because he understood if he accepts that Jesus rose from the dead and accepts what he told his disciples, that's going to change his life. That's going to mean that he has to get out of his comfort zone and to go where Jesus sent him, to proclaim that message and to live it, even if it meant death. Are we ready to do the same? That's why the church gives us Divine Mercy Sunday as the second Sunday of Easter, because that's where it begins to unravel. What does that empty tomb mean to us? What does the resurrection mean? Jesus did what he did because God's divine mercy, his love for us. He came and died and rose from the dead so our sins to be forgiven and we can be reconciled with God and one day share in that glorious resurrection. And that's the message that he wants us to proclaim, to live. Are we sharing that mercy? Are we being merciful? Or we just expect God to be merciful with us? And the world needs that message today more than any other day, more than any other time. Because there's division all over the world. There's lack of tolerance, lack of mercy, lack of compassion. And Jesus reminds us today, as the Father has sent me, I send you. Be my disciples of mercy. Go bring God's forgiveness to the world, starting by you living lives of mercy, forgiving those who have hurt you, offended you, reconciling people, become peacemakers. That's what the resurrection is all about. is about not just believing that Jesus truly rose from the dead, but that through his resurrection, he greets us with his peace and says, "As the Father sent me, so I send you."